Hi, I'm Nate Regier, CEO of Next Element, and I'm delighted to be joined by the leadership team of Kansas Publishing Ventures. We just wrapped up a leadership training program with them that started pre-COVID. We actually had our first meeting in person, and then COVID hit, and we finished the program virtually. And they have been kind enough to agree to come and talk a little bit about their experience with this program and how they're using and applying the tools of process communication model and leading out of drama. So I'm going to turn it over to Bruce Beheimer.
All right, thanks, Nate. Oh, I don't know. I think it was probably early January. Well, we came off a good year. 2019 was a good year, and early January, I got to just thinking in my own head about things. How can we get better? How can we be a little bit tighter? How can we just make the machine just do just a little more? And I was familiar with your work, Nate, and what you've done. And I think I just emailed you and said, hey, I got a crazy idea. Let's have some coffee and let's talk. And that's how this whole thing started. And it's been a fun process. We got closer as we've gone through this thing. We got to see each other be vulnerable, and it's just been cool. I have loved the whole experience.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And so, will you say a little bit about what your company does? What is the scope of your work?
We're a full-fledged media company. We have newspapers. We do book publishing. Just about anything that can, in terms of marketing, we can probably get a grip on and help our customers out with.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Anyone else care to share a little bit about what your experience was like?
I'll jump in. I'm Tommy Hornbeck. I'm the technical director here at Kansas Publishing Ventures. And I was real excited when Bruce brought up that we'd have a chance to go through this training. I was a little familiar with PCM from a prior job, and being the newest member of the management team here, it's really been huge to have a common language and a common skill set that we can work with together to tackle everyday things. And really, it's been paramount when handling the pandemic. It's been priceless.
Yeah, something we didn't expect going into this was the not just you wanting to come together as a team and wanting to be more effective in your roles and in your communication, but we didn't expect that we'd be dealing with all this pandemic stuff too. Not only how it affected all of you as a team, but also your interactions with the community. And you've kept all of your stuff going through this whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it almost got to be like it was a little bit of a therapy session too. Like when we were like kind of all like in our little holes, and like we didn't know what was going on in the world. Like we didn't know. And like it was just helpful to have these sessions on a regular basis. Like they were enjoyable and they were something we look forward to. But two, like it was a time where we needed those skills to communicate, because there was so much like stress just amped up and amped up and amped up. And it was like an important tool. Like I'm the managing editor of Newton Now, which is one of our publications. I help oversee some of our other publications. And for me, it was really useful because like when you're trying to manage people and you're trying to figure out how to make people work, especially with like a time with COVID where things are changing, everyone's working remotely, like it really provided me some good tools to understand people, to really practice compassion, to show empathy, but also to hold people accountable and motivate them to get results. And so like, for me, like the whole training was incredibly beneficial just because it gave me some of the extra tools I needed to do a better job managing people.
Cool. Cool.
I'll jump in. I'm Lindsay Young. I do the business side of things. So I'm the button pusher, I guess, for the most part. But yeah, I think for me, it was helpful just partially to help me be a little more reflective about who I am. So kind of recognizing my strengths as well as my weaknesses, and helping me to maybe be a little more effective as far as not falling into some of the pitfalls that I discovered that I have. But it also has really, I think, made me a lot more effective through email communication too. Like I tend to kind of hedge things a little bit sometimes and be a little over nice. And so now that I've kind of recognized some skills that I can use to still be nice, but also be effective with my communication, that's really been helpful for me.
Well, we used we used the chat function a lot in our virtual meetings because so much of what we work on is written communication, spoken communication, and you all really dived in and used that chat to really practice, and that I found that to be almost better than in person because we had an archive of the things we were working on and practicing, and we could all look at it and analyze it and learn from it together.
Yeah, it was like going through game tape. You could say, okay, this is what was working, this is what wasn't working. And I found that as a useful tool to get like critiques and feedback.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I'm the majority owner of Kansas Publishing Ventures, and working with this team, I can definitely see how they use it with the rest of our employees, and how much more effective some of the communication is. I was incredibly skeptical when Bruce brought this to me and said, I want us to go through this. I did not want this to be a waste of time. I made that very clear to him that like I was going to hold this like on him if this was a waste of time, because, getting us all together and doing something of this nature, takes away from the work we would normally be doing. And it wasn't a waste of time. I was skeptical even during the process sometimes, but once things really started to really roll in and you can kind of see where some of the pieces are coming together, I really viewed this as something that we can use going forward to become better as a team and as a company. It took me a little longer than I think everybody else, but I really appreciated the training, especially once it was over and I could tell where all the puzzle pieces fit. It was something that I think we'll be using going forward with all of our employees.
Well, I certainly saw it. I saw it show up in how you craft your ads in the paper. I saw it in how you write your stories, and how you even in editorials noticed how you were using trying to appeal to all the personality types to engage people. And so this wasn't just tools for you to get along better. I saw you really practically applying these in the work you do, because your job is to engage and inform people and get them involved and get them to read and participate in the community. And so tools like PCM and Leading Out of Drama that's what they're for. I was really proud of you all putting that into practice. And probably the way the sessions were set up, where we met, weekly or every other week for a couple hours, it gave you time to go apply what you had learned and not get overwhelmed with too much new stuff. Like if we were in a 3-day consecutive training, a kind of an unexpected benefit, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that was something that I didn't expect going in, was just like, and I mean, this is something I would market of it. Like, I didn't expect it to be end up being a really useful social media tool. So I help manage all of our social media feeds, and we're a newspaper. So we deal with some of the worst people that will comment on articles, that want to get in fights, that want to just share garbage. So I'm it's a dumpster fire half the time. And so I'm stuck trying to communicate with these people, or say okay, this isn't a correct link, this isn't a right news source, thanks for your feedback, but and so the Leading Out of Drama tool really allowed some really nice blueprints for how do you talk to some of these people that are angry? How do you engage them? How do you shift their focus? How do you move their direction? And so it's been really helpful in social media interactions, because if you continue with these tools, you can turn these really angry rants into sometimes positive interactions, which it was something clicked. So for me, I know that sounds like it's a scam, or it's not it teaches you how to communicate with people better. It's not a one size fit all thing. It's just well, how do you understand people better? Sorry, I could communicate better there.
No, that's great. I'm curious. I'd love to hear from each of you. Was there one favorite concept or favorite insight from this whole thing that just kind of stuck with you?
I thought the Leading Out of Drama, where we were talking about how to communicate with someone using the Orpo tool, was really useful. I used that in a very in a very specific situation the week after we learned it, and it was very helpful to maintain the course that I was wanting to go through while also respecting the other person and the drama that was going on between the two of us. And I really appreciated that portion.
Cool. How about you,
Yeah,
Tommy?
I would
Oh,
echo that too on
yeah.
the ortho part. For me, just, especially when we've been going through the COVID stuff, I think that, emotions have been just all over the place with everybody and nobody knows what's going to happen. And just with the uncertainty, it's been nice to be able to recognize where I am emotionally and take a step back and know where my person that I'm talking to is emotionally, and then be able to, for us to both communicate, in an effective way instead of, ramping things up or,
Yeah.
letting the emotions overtake us to a point where it's not healthy anymore.
Yeah.
Tommy muted.
There we go.
Yeah, I muted myself.
No problem.
For me, I deal primarily in technology, so a lot of my time spent translating the technology to people that don't necessarily inherently understand it the way I do. So to have another means to really understand the person I'm across from or on the phone with or through a Zoom meeting with, and communicate in a way that really connects with them, so I know that they're invested in our conversation. And if they're not understanding me, to know that I have a chance to get feedback from them on a channel where we can both be productive and efficient.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. How about for you, Adam?
Well, are we talking about for productivity? Like, I spend so much time before this, like, I spent a lot of time like trying to get people to do, what you direct them to do. But what I wasn't realizing was I wasn't directing them in the right way. Like, a lot of times we don't notice what we're doing. Like, we get in our heads and we think, okay, we've laid out these directions really, really clearly. Like, why aren't people following these directions? But what it also really encouraged me to do, at least, was not to just stick with what I think in my own head with people are going to read my mind, but like make sure that one, I'm making my needs and wants like implicit. And then I'm also communicating those needs and wants in a way that other people hear, because some people have different personality types. They're receptive to messages in different ways. So it really like encouraged me to get outside of my own head and think only how I want to be directed and how I want to be communicated with, and try to put myself in other people's shoes. And again, like, if I was just before I had taken that course and I would have heard me say that, I've been like, okay, that sounds like a waste of time. Like, these people are paid to do work. Like, they should do work. But at the end of the day, like, you want productivity. You want people to do what you want them to do. So like, if you have a tool that like makes it a lot quicker and makes it more likely that people are going to do what you tell them to do and be receptive about it and be happy about it, like, that's a useful tool.
Cool. Cool. Thank you. How about you, Bruce?
Yeah, I have, in terms of just communicating with my customers in my emails, I'm a lot more mindful of who I'm sending to and how I word things. As okay, this person's a thinker. I probably don't need to get into a big, routine with them about things. So I'm just very mindful in the way that I communicate with my customers, and also advertising. We have a house ad this week about subscribing, and I think I addressed each of the personality pieces in that. Fun feature stories about your neighbors. Thought-provoking hard news. I just am more mindful of all this as I go along now, and it's helped a lot.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I really appreciate all of you sharing a little bit about how this impacted you. Any last comments before we wrap it up?
I just can tell as the person who has to kind of steer the ship, like typically, how much more effective each person on this call is, dealing with who they normally deal with, and how much better we communicate as a team internally. Adam was talking about, his reporters and trying to get them to do what he wants. You can tell that he's motivating them in different manners and that they're more productive after the training than before the training. And they all seem to be happier, which is also really beneficial. So I just think that was really neat, like to see unfold.
I mean, a lot of us came in here really skeptical. and we were kind of skeptical of the whole process. Bruce and Tommy were the ones who kind of drug people in, and leaving, like, I'm really thankful we had this opportunity. Like, to me, it's a great resource, and I've been using it every day since. That's my piece. I'm done talking.
Well, thank you so much. And I feel so proud to be part of this because you're in our community, you're making a difference in our community, and it's so great. We work a lot with clients all over the world, and to work with someone in our own community and watch the difference happening right now more than ever is so meaningful. So thank you all for investing in this and for sharing your experience. Appreciate you all.
Thanks, Nate.
Thank you, Nate.